everybody, and welcome to the United Stand and happy Friday morning. Welcome to the show, everybody. On today's show, we are going to be talking Jadon Sancho. He looks set to leave Manchester United come the summer. Could there be a U-turn on that decision if Erik ten Hag isn't the manager, or are the bridges at the club already burned? The player wants to stay at Dortmund. Are we going to be able to sell him for the fee that Manchester United have set a fee on Jadon Sancho? Going to be discussing that. Also, the situation with Erik ten Hag, why there isn't a way back for Sancho, and why this is a situation that's spun out of control, and basically manager and player are both too stubborn to let bygones be bygones, basically, and let the feud come to an end. It's something that isn't going to be able to resolve. Benni McCarthy's been speaking on what happened behind the scenes with Jadon Sancho and why it got to that point. Also on Benni McCarthy, he's set to leave Manchester United as the attacking coach leaves Manchester United. He was a popular figure last season. I mean, this season, the attacking players haven't been that great. So, going to be discussing that as well. Also, some talks on Mason Greenwood, which club is most likely to sign him. It's a club in Spain. Going to be getting into that and what fee we could expect for him. And also, a little bit of news on Erik ten Hag as well. When the decision is expected to be announced and what it's looking like. Is it going to be ten Hag to stay, or is it going to be ten Hag to leave? Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the show, and get all your comments in down below. How are you feeling on this fine Friday morning? How are you feeling? Hopefully you're feeling good. I was out last night at a concert. I was at Nicki Minaj. I got in at like 2 a.m, but I'm here for the morning show, and I'm happy to go through everything with you guys. So get your comments in down below, and I'll read them out as the show moves forward. Nice hoodie, Beth, says Chunky Chunks. It's actually, we're not even got a sponsorship this morning, so you know that's how good they are. It's Boohoo Man. It's actually Boohoo Man. So yeah, thank you for that compliment. But let's get into the details of the feud with Jadon Sancho and Erik ten Hag. This is one for the books, really. This is obviously one that's gonna you're always gonna come back to it and think, how could it go so wrong? Because when Erik ten Hag originally said Jadon Sancho was dropped due to training performances, I still look back at that clip and I think it's not bad at all. Like, Pep Guardiola says more damning things about his players on a weekly basis than that, in my opinion. Like, he literally got asked a question, why is Jadon Sancho not in the squad? Because of his training performances. I don't understand how that warranted the reaction in the post on Twitter from Jadon Sancho. And honestly, it just is something that spiralled out of control. And in Jadon Sancho's point of view, he's thinking, I'm playing in a Champions League final, so it all worked out for the best. But in a view from Manchester United, again, it's a signing that there wasn't a complete veto done on it. And to be honest, if you look at the character of the player, someone like that shouldn't be at Manchester United. But anyway, going to get into it. Benni McCarthy says, I spoke to the manager, Erik ten Hag, and I said to him that you know the delicacy, and I think Jadon Sancho feels that if he apologises, then he's going to be classed as someone who doesn't train hard and that doesn't work hard, and that everything that was said against him was true. If you are from the streets, no one wants to apologise. You admit you are not training well, you are lazy, everything you are accused of. Jadon isn't going to have done that. The manager just said that all he wants is an apology. So on that, basically, Benni McCarthy, who's obviously a very well-liked figure around Manchester United, and you can always see him, hugging the players. He clearly has a good relationship with a lot of the players, clearly had a good relationship with Jadon Sancho when everything went happen, because let's not get it wrong, like, Jadon Sancho was training at the youth section in the under-21s. He wasn't allowed to come over to the first team building. I mean, there was reports from the ESPN that he used to eat his lunch in his car sometimes. I don't know how true that is, but he was literally completely banished from the first team. So Benni McCarthy obviously went and spoke to him, tried to resolve the issue, and was like, look, Erik ten Hag, the manager of Manchester United, wants an apology. I know you feel like it might not be warranted, but let's just apologise. We can move past this and we can move on. And Jadon Sancho is extremely, extremely stubborn. And I read this in an article from the ESPN as well. United sources have said that Jadon Sancho is a good lad, like, he's a good kid, like, seems like a good personality, but he's extremely, extremely stubborn. And he was not going to apologise to Erik ten Hag because he felt like if he did apologise to Erik ten Hag, that would mean that he was basically admitting the accusations of him being lazy in training were true, and he didn't want to do that. So it's basically two stubborn characters in Erik ten Hag and the player. But what Manchester United need to ensure, and I feel like they have done that because they have backed Erik ten Hag, is they need to ensure that the manager wins. The player should never win over a manager. The player should never be able to question a manager's authority. Jadon Sancho might not think he did anything wrong. He might not think his training performances were under par. But why on earth would Erik ten Hag randomly pick on Jadon Sancho for something that wasn't true? He obviously saw something wasn't right in Jadon Sancho's performances. And there was actually a story saying that the week before the Arsenal game where he did get dropped, Erik ten Hag took Jadon Sancho into his office and showed him some videos from training of where he needs to improve and what he feels like he could be doing better. So it wasn't, an instant thing from Erik ten Hag. He helped him a lot. He gave him that time off in the Netherlands. He sent him to coaches that he trusted to help him get back on track. He integrated him back into the team. He spoke really respectfully of his issues in the media, I thought, while he was having them. He then showed him videos of training and how he needs to improve. Sancho was late numerous times, even before Erik ten Hag got there. And to be honest, I think probably the week before the Arsenal game where Erik ten Hag didn't really think Jadon Sancho was doing what he should be doing in training, it was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. And he just was honest in the media. What was he supposed to say? Jadon Sancho was ill? Because that would have been a lie. He was honest in the media. Jadon Sancho was very frustrated by it. And sometimes I think when something is true and you know it's true, it can hurt you even more, which is why Sancho maybe reacted the way he did with that Twitter post when you deep down know it's true. So, again, I don't want to go in on Jadon Sancho's personality. He's doing brilliantly for Dortmund right now. I wish him all the best on Saturday in the Champions League final. I honestly do. If he wins it, that makes his price tag go up. I obviously wish him the best as a United player. But at the end of the day, I think Jadon Sancho needed to do some reflecting, and my personal opinion is Erik ten Hag's not randomly just deciding to pick on one player and call him out. Jadon Sancho's had a few things follow him. Dortmund, there was reports of disciplinary issues early on in his early days there. The coach came out and said it in an interview. Gareth Southgate struggled with Sancho's punctuality, and there was reports of Sancho being late and having minor sort of infractions throughout his whole Manchester United career. And do you know what it is? People might think that being late isn't a big deal, but it is, especially at the high level. If Erik ten Hag has a rule that everyone has to be on time and everybody else abides to that rule, and one player is consistently late and turning up, 10, 15 minutes late and nothing happens to them, all the other players, it sets the wrong example. It's like all the younger players as well. Well, how can Sancho do that but doesn't get any sort of punishment for it? And why do I have to be on time? Can I just turn up late then? And it's like where you draw the line. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect for the manager. It's a sign of respect for your other teammates. So I just think with Jadon Sancho, water under the bridge, it could have been that. We could have moved on if he did apologise. And no one would have been sat here months later saying, slagging off Jadon Sancho, because hopefully he would have apologised, he would have changed his ways, he would have been on time, he would have put, the right amount of work into training. Whether, we don't know what the levels are, we weren't behind the scenes, but he would have done what Erik ten Hag asked. And he could have been an influential figure at Manchester United because we know the talent's there. He's been absolutely brilliant for Dortmund in the Champions League. And he may well have a Champions League winners' medal. So with Jadon Sancho, things could have been a lot different. And I don't agree with the fact that, if he would have apologised, it means he would have been admitting that he was lazy and all of this stuff. I think that just comes across as a little bit of an ego to me. So Jadon should have apologised. The power shouldn't ever be in the players' hands. And I think Manchester United are right to back Erik ten Hag on this. And no matter what you think of Erik ten Hag, the manager always had to win in that scenario, because if he didn't, other players would feel like they could challenge the manager in the future and they could win that battle, and that's not the way it should be. Erik ten Hag, or whoever the manager is at Manchester United, sometimes, people get stuff wrong. Managers get stuff wrong sometimes. Managers don't always handle things in the best way. Erik ten Hag's probably handled some things wrong his time at Manchester United that he can learn from. But the manager should always, always, always have the power, because you're never going to have a dressing room that respects you if you don't. There has to be a slight bit of fear from the players and the manager. And I think for too long at the football club in recent years, the players have had more power than the manager, and there hasn't really been that fear. And the manager needs to be the manager. In the Sir Alex Ferguson days, loads of times the players would have felt hard done to and felt like Sir Alex was going over the top, or, you know, oh, well, I thought I did do this, but the manager's saying he didn't. But they wouldn't dare put a post out against them. They wouldn't dare speak back to them. And if they did, they'd apologise for it, because there was that slight fear, and the boss was the boss. And that's the way it should be. It's like at Manchester City. João Cancelo, he was a number 7 who was a fullback, one of the best fullbacks in the world at the time, was brilliant in the Premier League, had a little bit of a training ground bust up, basically, and took issue with Pep Guardiola. He was gone immediately, because Pep Guardiola is the boss, he's the manager. That's the way it should be. So, yeah, a little bit of a rant there, but on Jadon Sancho, wish him all the best in the Champions League. Hopefully they can win it so his price goes up. Hopefully he has a good performance. But even if Ten Hag isn't the manager, I still think, based off what's happened at the club, he's a character that we should be looking to move on. But getting your comments, by the way, because there is some people as well, there is some characters where you say, well, you know, they're that good on the pitch, you accept kind of the off-field antics. But I actually don't agree with that sentiment either. I think as a professional, you should be a professional off and on the pitch, to be honest with you. But it's not even as if like he kind of had that credit in the bank at United to be like, well, look at what I'm doing on a Saturday at Old Trafford. I think you can forgive me for being 10 minutes late, because there wasn't really anything happening on a Saturday at Old Trafford from Jadon Sancho. I think a lot of that is due to Manchester United itself. I don't think you can put it all on the player. I think we didn't have a system that suited him. I don't think the style of play enhanced Jadon Sancho's best attributes. I don't think it was a well thought through signing, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't think that argument's valid either. But got some super chats in, going to read them out. Jay Patak says starships were meant to fly. Love it. Nicki Minaj was actually really good last night. She was really good, and I would give you my maybe if I'd had like an Aperol Spritz or a wine or something, I would give you my rendition of Starships. But I don't think you want to hear it on this Friday morning, and I've definitely not having enough coffee or enough alcohol to start singing for you. Sweet Caroline says, I back Erik Ten Hag, would it be difficult to buy players? I don't know what you're trying to say there, Sweet Caroline, but I don't think it'd be difficult to buy players with Erik Ten Hag as the manager. No, I really don't. I don't think it would. I think one off-putting thing is we're not in the Champions League, but I still see us being able to attract players this summer. Ricky, because you know you talk about Erik Ten Hag falling out with players like Jadon Sancho. I mean, there was talks of a slight disagreement with Varane, but they got over that very quickly. Varane is a top professional. We don't really know what happened there. And Varane played for Erik Ten Hag. They seem to be fine with each other. Like Ten Hag, he was his first choice centre-back for the majority of the season whenever he was fit. So I think they overcame that. Obviously, there was a little spat with Ronaldo. And apart from that, I can't remember Erik Ten Hag having any issues with any players. Casemiro, potentially at the end of the season, we're not sure what happened there. But, you know, people can talk about Ten Hag's man management, and, you know, it is a question to be asked, because there has been reports of a few player fallouts. There have been, but the only one we absolutely know about is the Sancho one. But you look at Sancho, and he's had issues at Man City, he had issues at Dortmund in the early on days, and Dortmund speak so highly of him now because they accept his talent, and he's probably grown up a lot, but they did have some issues in the early days. Gareth Southgate had issues with his punctuality at England. You know, there was issues with with Sancho's punctuality before Ten Hag even came into Manchester United. So you can kind of understand with a manager that, I mean, you've seen, like, a lot of people saw Scott McTominay's podcast where he talked about Erik Ten Hag is so particular and he has such high standards, and there's certain things that he won't bend on. And McTominay named that as punctuality and timing is one of them. It's a sign of respect for Ten Hag. You have to respect the manager's rules. And if Sancho couldn't get his punctuality right, it was going to come to a head at some point. But for every player like that, like we've spoken about, there's Alessandro Martinez, who's running onto the pitch, lifting Erik Ten Hag up and celebrating with him. There's a Kobbie Mainoo and a Garnacho who Erik Ten Hag has his arms round at the end of the game saying, do you remember what I told you at the Carabao Cup? This feeling. I knew you'd be able to do it, and we're winning together now. You know, you can tell the young players love him. Like Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo, that conversation, it honestly was like emotional to watch for me as a Manchester United fan. Like, I was like, who's cutting onions here? Do you know what I mean? And, you know, Bruno Fernandes fights for Erik ten Hag every single game. Diogo Dalot's spoken highly, saying sometimes as a player and a manager you just gel. And I feel like me and ten Hag have gelled, and he's allowed me to excel. So, and Scott McTominay has spoken highly of ten Hag and how much he rates him as a manager. So there's people saying ten Hag's my management skills, ten Hag's my management skills. Look at Sancho, look at the issue with Ronaldo, and etc. etc. Look at the players that you look at. Lisandro Martinez, and you see him as a top professional, has an elite mentality. Diogo Dalot, someone who follows, you know, the regimes of Ronaldo because he wants to be the best and he's putting so much effort in. And everyone's described to have a top mentality, rating Erik ten Hag. You know, Rasmus Højlund apparently has a good relationship with Erik ten Hag. So you look at certain characters, and Kobbie Mainoo's, the Alejandro Garnachos that have developed massively under Erik ten Hag and are playing their best football so far in a Man United shirt and have a lot of potential. Young players like Erik ten Hag. So everyone can say about ten Hag's my management skills, but there's another side to that coin, and there's a lot of players that do like ten Hag. There's a lot of players that are playing for ten Hag. And the one thing I would say, okay, yeah, ten Hag does have a reputation in terms of his man management. I honestly think that's fans that don't want Erik ten Hag, so they're kind of using it as a reason against him. But Sancho, you can see the reasons there. Ronaldo one is still something I'm hurt by because I love Ronaldo and he's an utmost professional. I don't know what happened and what went wrong there. It's something that I do always question ten Hag over, to be honest with you. Like I said, a manager's not always going to get everything right. I'm Erik ten Hag in, but I'm not really in agreement with how he handled the Ronaldo thing. And, you know, I'd say that. I'm in agreement with a lot of things he handled, but I think you've got to look at it as a whole. And, you know, out of every manager post-Fergie, towards the end, you could tell the players were down in tools, the players were not playing for the manager. The players played for Erik ten Hag for the majority of this season. There were some games where they absolutely could have done more, but when the chips were down in that cup final, they did play for the manager. So you've got to understand that, and you've got to take that into consideration as well. So get in the comments down below what you're thinking. Sweet Caroline, welcome to United Stand Members Club. Thank you for that. United One says, it seems Ineos being sensible with transfers. According to ESPN, wingers are the lowest priority, which is wise. Erik ten Hag needs to work with the one signed to the club. I mean, of course there's priorities, and I wouldn't put a winger at the top of them priorities, but also at the same time, Elise is a nailed-on priority, and we do need to balance our attack, and I think we will buy him. Also, the producer, just so you know, I think the TV's on, and it's quite loud. If there's any chance we can turn it off, it's distracting me on the show. Akash K says, if Erik ten Hag gets sacked, Sancho gets a second chance. Probably, but also, Man United could do with the money, and he still might go. Man United could do with the money, and he still might go. And should you really take somebody back and give them another chance after everything that's happened? I mean, get in the comments down below. If Erik ten Hag was sacked, which is a high likelihood, likability that he is going to be sacked, like, it's 50-50 at the moment, like, ten Hag could be sacked. Would you give Jadon Sancho a second chance? Or would you still want to sell him? Me, personally, I'd probably still cash in. Dazzo saying he didn't say sorry because he's from the street, so it's because he's part of London, he's stubborn, he's been pampered all his life as a football player. Ricky Moreno says, hi Beth, to be honest, I don't think Sancho is fast enough for the English league as a winger. I'd rather start Garnacho, sell him the highest bidder. Thank you very much for all of your super chats. MMA Takedown says, can Jadon go to Sancho? Can Jadon go to Sancho? Can Jadon go to Saudi, please? Thank you for your super chats. Number 7 says Sancho disrespected the club as a whole, so can get rid. Exactly. You know, the player wants to stay at Dortmund. That's being very highly reported. You know, as soon as he went into Dortmund, he's pointing to the badge, kissing the badge. He's a good player, I think. Like, I think he is talented. But I just question whether he's the right character to be a Manchester United player. So I would be in favour of selling him, to be honest with you. But I want to make it clear, I think he's a very talented football player. And he does have the attributes to flourish. And he could well have a man of the match performance in the Champions League and win it. Like, that could happen. He's 90 minutes away from doing that. I think he's super talented. But at Man United, like I've always said, I say it on my shows, you need talent and mentality. You need both to be a Man United player. We've got some players in the squad that have mentality but don't have the elite level talent that we need. We have some players in the squad that have the talent but don't have the mentality you need. You need both. Bruno has both, talent and mentality. Martinez has both, talent and mentality. You need both. There's some players there, like, for example, Scott McTominay got an unbelievable mentality. I think he's good enough to be a squad player, but he's not, you know, the most talented player in the squad in terms of footballing ability. Like, there's them types of characters, and I think Jadon Sancho's got the talent. I just don't think he's got the mentality at Manchester United. Got another super chat in from Sanil Dewan saying it was Erik ten Hag who was public after the Arsenal on Sancho. Later wanted him to apologise for being public. Not saying Sancho was right, but Erik ten Hag handled it wrong. You know, maybe Erik ten Hag could handle it differently, but he was asked in a press conference why Jadon Sancho wasn't part of the squad. What was he supposed to do? Was he supposed to lie? I wouldn't say Erik ten Hag saying Jadon Sancho wasn't picked because of training performances is taking it public. That's answering a question, honestly. He either could have said he was ill, or I'm not answering that question, which would have made more headlines as well. And he would have kept being asked about it, because people would have thought that's a strange answer. If he said he was ill, he would have lied. So people can say Erik ten Hag took it public. He answered a question. Managers get asked these questions all the time, by the way, but it doesn't blow up. Pep Guardiola has said numerous things about why players, you know, haven't been picked before. I mean, other managers have as well. Thomas Tuchel, I think, recently did a press conference, and he talked about Kim Min-jae in a way that, God, if a Manchester United manager would have spoken about that about a player, it would have been headlines for weeks. You know, it's management. I think Erik ten Hag, you know, he didn't lie. He said the truth. And I think Sancho, maybe because sometimes the truth hurts, got very hurt by it, lashed out on social media and didn't want that perception of him out there, and made a post that just should never have been made, in my opinion. There's no excuse for that post. There isn't an excuse for that post. The post never should have made. Sandil says, and Sancho didn't have the right to defend himself. Of course he has the right to defend himself. He has a voice. But in my opinion, what he should have done is got his head down. The best way to defend yourself is get your head down, work incredibly hard, show the managers that he's wrong. When you do get a chance on the pitch, which he would have got, put in an unbelievable performance. Make sure you leave no stone unturned. Give everything. That's the way I think he should have gone about it, personally. But anyway, Sancho is probably going to leave. Ben Jacobs said on his report with us yesterday on the afternoon show that United want 50 million for Jadon Sancho. Dortmund don't think they're going to be able to pay that. Going to try and drive the price down lower on Jadon Sancho. And they also want Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, which is going to take up a bit of their budget. But what we would say is Dortmund getting to this point in the Champions League, if they win the Champions League as well, that's more money coming into their transfer kitty. I think Dortmund can afford to spend 50 million on Jadon Sancho. I just don't think they want to. I think they're going to want to negotiate, they're going to want to bargain with us. The player wants to stay at Dortmund. Dortmund want the player. I think that's a deal that could get done, and I don't think it'll be 50, but I reckon we could get around 40 million for him. And honestly, I still think Dortmund have got a great deal. We bought him for 73 million. He's gone on loan to you for a season where you've got to the Champions League. Like, pay us 40 million, come on. Let's not be silly about it now. It's like when you're selling your clothes on Depop or on Vinted or something, and you've already lowered the price, and they're like, oh, can I have an extra £3 off? And it's like, you cheeky sod. I already have to put shipping on top of that. I mean, I think Dortmund will buy Sancho off us. That's just my gut feeling. If everything goes to plan and Erik ten Hag stays as manager and there is no way back for Sancho, I think Dortmund will buy him. And if they win the Champions League, there's even a better chance that they buy him. I know they want Ian Maatsen as first priority. United putting 50 mil on his price tag. Let's be honest. When Jadon Sancho left United before he went to Dortmund on loan, we were thinking we're not even going to be able to sell him for a fee in the summer, because his stocks were that low. His stocks have risen. I think there is going to be other clubs interested potentially. It's just the wage that is a stumbling block. That 300 grand a week, 350 grand a week, it's mental. That'll be a stumbling block. But like I said, I don't think Dortmund will pay the 50. But I think United have to go in high, so when we negotiate, we can get around the 40 million mark, and I'd take that just to move on from it, to move on from the whole saga, get the wages off the books. You'd absolutely take that if you're Manchester United. Collins Tomolo, welcome to the United Stand Members Club, and Dull it says name one game Sancho has shined for us. I think the games I could mention in pre-season. Honestly, I know it's pre-season, but in last pre-season, Sancho looked good. In that Arsenal game, he looked good. Like, he looked good in pre-season. I remember thinking that. I remember thinking, you know, could Sancho false nine be something Ten Hag uses this season? Like, he looked very good. I thought the Liverpool game, he actually scored the first goal of the Erik Ten Hag era, which is quite ironic. The Liverpool game, I thought he was pretty good in that home game last year. And I think Chelsea away, he was decent as well. Apart from that, can't really remember anything, and that kind of shows how little games he did kind of probably shine in, to be honest with you. Fulham game, he was good, says Stefan. Spurs game. Thank you everyone for getting your chats in, by the way. Keep them coming. But yeah, Jadon Sancho, probably going to leave. What price do you reckon we can get for him? Let's run a poll actually. How much will Manchester United get for Jadon Sancho this summer? Under 30 million. 30 to 40 million or 50 million. Let's run that poll down below and get your votes in. Brian Govender says, Beth, he needs to go. I think the majority of you guys would agree with that. And I think, you know, me and my dad were speaking about it this morning, actually. And because I was thinking about doing the show, and I was thinking, we both agreed. Sancho, we don't think there's a way back from United. But anyway, according to the Mirror, vote in the poll as the poll goes up. Benni McCarthy is set to leave Manchester United after not being offered a new contract by the club. So Benni McCarthy, the attacking coach for Manchester United, is set to leave this summer. And it's weird, isn't it? Because last season when Rashford was, you know, banging in the goals and doing really well, so many people accredited that down to Benni McCarthy, saying Benni McCarthy's been working wonders with Rashford. He's been doing extra sessions with Benni McCarthy. He's been doing brilliant work. And then this season, if you're going to give Benni McCarthy the credit for last season, you've got to give him, you know, you've got to kind of put some responsibility on him for this season as well. Our attacking play has been poor. We've not scored as many goals as we should have done at all. The front three, whoever plays, the chemistry's not looked completely there. The patterns of play haven't really been there. And it's not all down to Benni McCarthy. But realistically, if you're judging it based on performance, and he is an attacking coach, it's not been good enough. It's not been good enough. He can't take all the blame, of course he can't. But it's where you question what is he actually, you know, doing behind the scenes if our attacking play is so poor. And I don't want to disrespect him because he's such a lovely guy. He's always saying hi to the fans. He's always stopping to sign things. He looks like a great character. And loads of people, the United staff, the players, have nothing but good things to say about him. He seems like a brilliant character. But, you know, there's a lot of people in this world that are great characters, but they don't get paid good money to be a coach for Manchester United. Like, you can't just be paid to be a coach for Manchester United because you're a good person to have around the place. You've got to give a bit more. So on a professional point of view, I think it is the right decision, to be honest. I think it is, because he's an attacking coach, and the attack just needs to address in the summer. Whether we need to bring somebody else in to work with the forward players, I think it's something we need to do. But Benni McCarthy, I wish him all the best for the rest of his career, 100%. A lovely guy, a lovely figure. Was a great person to obviously have around the dressing room, but Man United, after doing their audit and doing their assessment, obviously don't think he's giving enough to warrant a new contract. So I'm going to trust the exploration of that and the exploration of the audit by Manchester United, the Manchester United hierarchy, to think that Benni McCarthy isn't warranted a new contract, and he will depart the club in the summer. Get your votes in though. Javio Footy says, what does Benni have to do with the lack of chances created? He's the shooting coach. That is it. I mean, he's part of the attacking coach. He's part of the attacking team for Manchester United. And, okay, like I just said, he's not responsible for everything, but he is responsible for our attacking play. And players getting in the right positions, you know, hold-up play. Everything to do with it, I think he deserves some responsibility onto that. And if he's mainly just to do with shooting, I mean, our shooting hasn't been great either. How many chances have we missed? Rasmus hasn't. Rasmus's shot conversion is great, but all I'm going to say on this, I don't want to hold on to it too long. Benni McCarthy is a great person. I'm not slighting on that. But if the United hierarchy have been told to do a task, to do a job, to go through, you know, the whole of Manchester United, from the medical staff to the coaches to everything, and kind of sieve out who should be staying and who should be going, and they've decided that Benni McCarthy isn't offering enough for a new contract, then I'm going to trust Ineos on that. I'm going to trust them on that. But keep getting your comments in. How much will Man United get for Sancho? Under 30 million, between 30 and 40, and 50 plus. I've said between 30 and 40, and you guys are saying that as well. 62% of you are in on that vote. I just wanted to see that, to kind of see where you think we'll go on it. Someone said, if Benni McCarthy is out, isn't Erik ten Hag also out? No, that's not how it works. We have no idea what impact each coach is having behind the scenes and what impact it's having. Erik, being the manager of Manchester United is massively different to being an attacking coach for Manchester United. Massively different. The world, like, you can't even, I mean, you can compare them, but for me, it's pointless. They're completely different roles. Completely different roles. It's like saying, you know, for example, if the goalkeeper was super poor every week and United decided to get rid of the goalkeeping coach, shouldn't Erik ten Hag go as well then? No. Because each coach has their areas of expertise, and Erik ten Hag is the manager of Manchester United. It's not so black and white like that. Tristan Millward says, Beth, I think if he can't play well in the final, which is at Wembley, I say that maybe Sancho just can't play well in England, given the pre-season was in America. I mean, that is an interesting take. I don't think he's got that much of a jinx around him in England. It says, I don't think scoring goals counts as shining. If that's the case, McSauce has shined more than most. Elvin Matak says, Sancho hurt me. I weirdly hope it still works out. Trust me, like, it hurt me as well. I was so buzzing, like most Man United fans were, when Jadon Sancho was announced as a signing. I think everyone can say we were so buzzing, we really wanted him. I remember Mark at the time was, you know, well excited for him. I was excited for him. It just didn't work out the way we thought it would be. A lot of people talking about the mic. Let me try and adjust it. Apparently it's all right. A lot of people just didn't work. A lot of people expected it to be amazing. I expected it to be amazing. I thought Sancho was going to tear the Prem up. I was well excited. I thought he was the missing piece to what we needed, that creative flair winger. Just didn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't. And United need to examine why it didn't. And there's too many, what I will say to defend Jadon Sancho, there's too many players that don't work out. It's not just Jadon Sancho. There's too many that don't work out, and it needs to be looked into, and that's something that massively has to change under Ineos and this new structure. It should be, instead of it being a surprise and being an anomaly when a signing works out, it needs to be a surprise and anomaly when a signing fails. Like, for me, like Lisandro Martinez and Erasmus Højlund, they're two signings where I'm like, oh God, it's worked. Yay, it's worked. Like, that's not likely for Manchester United. Whereas, you know, when a signing fails, like, we've had so many of them. So Lisandro Martinez, who succeeded, Rasmus, who looks like he's got a lot of potential, like, they're standouts. It needs to be a standout for us when a signing doesn't do well. Because they're all, you know, you're not going to get everything right. Even Pep Guardiola doesn't, even, you know, Jurgen Klopp didn't. You're not going to get everything right. But for Man United, it needs to be the norm for signings to succeed and an anomaly for signings to fail. Whereas at the moment, it's the norm for signings to fail and an anomaly for them to succeed, which isn't the way you want to go about it. SK says it's not even about his training now. Saying sorry isn't just for Erik ten Hag, it's for the staff, the fans, the club. His actions are disrespectful. Yeah, that's something that you can take into consideration as well. But next on the agenda, moving on to the next part of the show. So this is a little bit of news coming out of left field. We're going to get into silly season of the transfer window, but it is a player that we've been linked to quite a lot. And it's coming in that Manchester United are willing to pay up to £68 million to sign Barcelona defender Ronald Araujo this summer, according to the Spanish publication Sport. So Araujo of Barcelona, we've been linked to him quite a few times over the course of this year. I think we've mainly been linked to him because Barcelona need to sell. because they have issues financially and Araujo is an asset. Apparently Araujo wants to stay at Barcelona. That's kind of the players' feelings on it, but could be open to a move. Apparently Barcelona kind of see his price to be around 80 million euros, which, you know, 68 million pounds kind of, I don't know what the exact figure is on that. Let me actually look it up. 80 million euros to pounds. Oh, it's 68 million pounds. Duh, are you stupid? Are you stupid, Beth? That's why it says 68 million pounds on your document. I mean, that was a blonde moment on this Friday morning. But apparently Manchester United are interested in Araujo. He's someone that is on their list of centre-backs, and Barcelona would be willing to let him go for around 68 million pounds because they are struggling financially. It's the same with the Frenkie de Jong thing. Remember when they were willing to let Frenkie de Jong go? It was the player that didn't want to go. They were willing to let him go to Manchester United because they were struggling financially, whereas the player dug his heels in and stayed. Barcelona are willing to let Araujo go for 68 million. Barcelona, if Manchester United offered 68 million pounds, I'm pretty sure they would take it and let him go. Manchester United are in the market for a centre-back. The issue is, I don't think Man United are willing to spend that money. I think that's where the story falls short. I think United definitely like Araujo, and we've heard on many shows before, he's someone on the list. He's someone that Man United have scouted. He's someone on the list for sure. But United don't want to spend that money on a centre-back. They just don't. They don't want to spend 68 million. But I would say to you is, you know, you're looking at a Branthwaite for 75, 80 mil. Like, that's the price of him. Araujo 68 million, it is a little bit lower, and it's a player that Manchester United do really like. You know, right-sided centre-back, very aggressive. I mean, him and Lisandro Martinez together, God, there could be a few red cards in that, couldn't there? I mean, they're both really aggressive and on the front foot. But I think Araujo's a good defender, to be honest with you. I think he's a good defender. I think he is prone to a mistake. He is, but I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he's a good defender. The price, if it was around 50 million, I would so be in for that. I would be, but I think 68 again is a little bit too high. And that's where Todibo comes up trumps. 40 million pounds. It's a really good price for a good defender in today's market. But get your comments in down below what you think. Bob the Cat says we don't have 68 pounds, never mind 68 million. Daniel King says stay away from Barca. Savage says Tomori. I know Tomori is really highly rated, and I like Tomori, I do. But he's not someone I'd be gravitated towards going for, to be honest. Like, I think he's a good defender, but he's not someone where I'm like, oh yeah, I think we should go and get him. I think he should definitely get a look in for the England squad. I think it's unfair that he doesn't, but he's not someone that I'm, you know, would die on that hill to go and get. And Chris B says 68 mil for a defender, but only 30 to 40 million. We are crazy. Keel Robinson says free transfers and loans only. We will sign some players, but we've got to look at what the most cost-effective options are as well. Sanil Dewan says, how can we afford 60 million on a defender when our cap is 80 million? Well, we are going to sign players and we will go over budget. Carl Perkins says, have you ever watched him? Of course I've watched Araujo for Barcelona. I've watched quite a few Barcelona games. You know, I do like to watch, you know, Barcelona, the Real Madrids, sometimes Atletico Madrids, but their football can be boring to watch. And, you know, the big teams in Europe, in the foreign leagues, I do watch them as much as I can. So I've watched Araujo quite a bit, yeah, and I think he is decent. I just do think he has a mistake in him, and he's not the finished article yet. How old is he actually? Let me have a look at that. Araujo, Barcelona. Again, he's 6'2", which is good for us. 25, which is the perfect age. It is the perfect age. Still got a little time to develop, but going into his prime years. So it's a good age. It's an age that I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe would approve of. 25 and below. Over 25 category on X Factor. Not welcome at Manchester United. Jerry's over 6 foot, so that's good if you were going to pair him with Lisandro Martinez. Let me just have a quick look. I'm just going to have a look at this as like a bit of a laugh. Yeah, he's only just turned 25, so if we did sign him this summer, he wouldn't have gone over the 25 category. His birthday's in March, so yeah, he would still be 25 if we signed him, so it wouldn't be the cut-off point. I mean, them rules, it was crazy that. we're not just going to not sign a player if they're 26 and they're exactly what we want just because they were a year older, that 25 mark. We're just going towards younger players. But yeah, get in your comments about Araujo. Would you want him or not? Maybe let's get a vote in. Let's end this poll. 63% of you say 30 to 40 million we'll get for Jadon Sancho. Let's run a poll on would you want Araujo as a signing at Manchester United? Because for you guys, I feel like he's quite popular, and I feel like he's quite popular in terms of, you know, football fans. I think football fans do quite rate him. It's just that price tag which is a little bit off-putting. Pastor Fred says, Araujo, Martinez and Onana, unrivaled crackhead energy, inject it into my veins. That would be a defence for the Bucks, wouldn't it? That would have... It definitely wouldn't lack passion and energy. That is for sure. It definitely wouldn't. I mean, would he complement Martinez? Get in the comments down below if you think that is something that you'd have to evaluate. If you would take Araujo, would he complement Martinez? I mean, right-sided defender, which is exactly what we want. And because of Barcelona's financial difficulty, there is... A question you could throw out there is, they're saying 68 million, but you could probably get him for a bit lower, to be honest, because of Barcelona's financial difficulty. I'd just like to look at what wage he's on as well. Let me just have a little look on that. Araujo wage. He's on 300, sorry, not 300. I read that wrong. He's on £134,000 a week, and that's euros as well. So he's on 114 grand a week at Barcelona. So that is definitely accessible. Definitely accessible for Manchester United. So ticks that box as well. Get in the comments what you want. Oh, some tactical statistician says, I would rather have Araujo over to Debo. Really interesting. Would I rather have Araujo over to Debo? I've seen more of Araujo, to be honest with you. But I do think Todibo is a top talent coming through the ranks that also has a lot of good attributes as well. SK says the levels got some more chats coming in. Mike says, anyone know what date Erik ten Hag will be back from holiday, the date of landing? We don't know. I don't know. I'm not tapped into Erik ten Hag's schedule. I don't know which day he's landing. If you want to go and wait at Manchester Airport for him. I mean, will he even be getting a flight back to Manchester Airport? He might be getting a flight somewhere else. But I'm going to talk a little bit on updates on Erik ten Hag's future. But, you know, it must be frustrating for Erik ten Hag. He's on holiday right now. It's his time to relax and enjoy with his family. Like, he's on holiday, and every morning you're probably waking up thinking, am I going to get news today if I'm still going to be managing Manchester United next season? Like, where is my future? Am I going to have a job? I mean, it's not great for him, is it? Like, we should have decided this before the end of the season. He should have been in the know before the end of the season. And this is why we needed to make a decision really quickly, because for me, I get they want to make a thorough decision, but one, it's not great to keep Ten Hag in limbo. It's not great to keep the fans in limbo. And we need to get on with our summer. We need to appoint someone else if we are going to sack him. So a decision needs to be made. I'm still in the camp that maybe they're just waiting for the noise of the FA Cup to die down still. But I feel bad for Erik ten Hag that he's on his holidays and he still doesn't know the future of his job at Manchester United. Khalid Karma says Benni McCarthy contract not being renewed. If they weren't getting rid of Ten Hag, they wouldn't get rid of his coaching staff. Also, Depay is free. First of all, don't want Depay. And second of all, I don't think the Benni McCarthy not being renewed is a sign of what's going to happen with Ten Hag. I think it's completely different, if I'm going to be honest with you. But it's an interesting theory. Scott Turner says he will be sacked on Monday. I'm still leading towards the point where I think he might be sacked, guys. I think he is gone. I think this thorough review, honestly, might just be an excuse of biding time to let the noise of the FA Cup die down. Because don't get it wrong, no matter what anyone says, they were going to sack him after the FA Cup final who lost that game. That was the decision. They were going to do that. This thorough review, I know we've heard about Claude Blanc favouring Erik ten Hag, which, like I said on the show yesterday, is no surprise to me because he actually has experience in football. So he can probably see the projects and see the situation we're in and see the best decision is to stick by him. But I just think this thorough review might be a way to buy time for Ineos to announce the sacking next week, and hopefully there won't be as much as a backlash from their end. They're probably hoping that. But get in the comments what you think. Don't think Araujo will leave Barcelona, says Ken. Cena. Would you rather Araujo or Todibo? Please get in the comments what you would rather. I'd be really interested to know. Michael Riviero says Todibo would be half the price. That's the thing. Araujo is a good player, but if you're looking at similar attributes and you're also looking at a right-sided centre-back, Todibo is going to be 40 million, whereas Araujo is probably going to be around... I think you can get him out of Barcelona for 60. I think you could get him out of Barcelona for 60 mil if the player was willing to go. So it's an extra 20 million for Araujo. Would it be worth that? Similar ages, Todibo's 24, Araujo's 25. Obviously, Araujo's had more experience in big matches, in Champions League, in maybe against tougher opponents, which is something to keep an eye on. But get in your comments down below what you think. One thing I would say, Gleison Bremer was always a target. He's got around a 50 million release clause. He's someone to keep an eye on as well. Most people are saying Todibo because of the 40 million euros. Aaron S says, really, I thought it was 80 million euros. No, sorry, I thought it was 80 million. No, it was 80 million euros that Barca wanted for him, which translates to 68 million pounds. And with a bit of negotiating, this is just my inclination. I think you could get him out for probably around 60. Get in the comments what you're thinking. Todibo seems like a fan favourite, so I would say the community are leaning more towards bringing Todibo in than an Araujo. What I would say is Araujo is playing in a better league and he has got a little bit more experience. I would be happy with both. I'd be happy with Araujo, I'd be happy with Todibo. Both of them I'd be happy with. If you're looking purely financially, Todibo makes more sense in terms of the money because you could get Todibo and another centre-back. You could get, say if you bought Todibo, for example, you know, apparently Man United are looking for a young, up-and-coming left-back who has got the qualities to be a first-teamer now, but also has potential to even go even higher, looking to spend around 20 million on a left-back. If you buy Todibo for 40 million, you could also buy a left-back, you know, for 20 million, and that's the same cost it'd cost you to just buy one position in Araujo. So you do have to look at things financially, but also if Man United are evaluating, you think, is he worth the extra 20 million? Is he worth them extras? Is he going to give us more? It's for the scouting team to evaluate, but get in the comments what you think. But in terms of pricing, people will say, oh, it's only another 20 million. That's a left-back. You know, that's a left-back, and we are on a tight budget. So Todibo financially does make more sense. Next little bit of news coming in is that Atletico Madrid are the favourites to sign Manchester United's Mason Greenwood. I mean, we keep hearing this around Atletico Madrid and Mason Greenwood. We heard about the swap deal of João Felix. Ben Jacobs came out yesterday and basically labelled that as nonsense. João Felix won't be coming to Manchester United, but that doesn't mean that Atletico aren't interested in Mason Greenwood. So keep an eye on Atletico and Mason Greenwood because Greenwood wants to stay in Spain. That is the word. He wouldn't have to uproot from Spain to a different country. Atletico Madrid are very fond of the way that he's played in the La Liga this season. They've seen him, they've kept their eye on him. And, you know, I think with Mason Greenwood's backstory and the baggage that comes with it, I think Atletico Madrid are a club that could probably handle that with Mason Greenwood. So keep an eye on that. He's someone that could end up moving to Atletico Madrid. And, I mean, hopefully he does because then we get some money with him. Straight profit. Straight profit is exactly what we need going into our transfer budget, especially if we're looking at defenders around 68 million in Araujo, and you know you're looking at the brand rates of 70 million, you're looking at strikers and everything like that. You know, we keep getting linked to expensive players. We've not got an unlimited checkbook. We're on a very, very tight budget. Next little thing I wanted to speak about was this article from James Ducker in The Telegraph. A little bit different to what Ben Jacobs reporting yesterday, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and how it develops. But James Ducker said that Manchester United are taking their time over the future of Erik ten Hag with no decision expected on the manager this week. Whereas Ben Jacobs said that he was hearing that a decision's nearly been made. Ten Hag wants a decision before the weekend, and it either could have been yesterday or today, and he expects to get it towards the end of the week. You never know, we might get some breaking news on a Saturday or a Sunday this weekend. We might get some weekend news. I always, you know, I prefer it to be a transfer breaking news, but it's not going to be. But in the summer, the good thing about the summer is I always remember, like, you know, the weekends where you get that breaking news. I always remember Donny van der Beek happened on a Sunday night. So these things can happen at this point of the season. When you get into silly season, you can have that breaking news because it's whoever gets that exclusive scoop. I mean, there could be a situation where Erik ten Hag's informed on his future today, but the media and the fans don't know about the decision until Monday. you know, out of a little bit of respect for Erik ten Hag. But I do expect the decision to be leaked quite quickly. But James Ducker saying that he doesn't expect a decision on the manager until next week. Well, he doesn't specifically say next week. He says that they're taking time on it and there's no decision expected on the manager this week. Whereas Ben Jacobs said that he thinks there'd be a decision by the end of the week. So a race against time. Who's going to be right? Obviously, things can change and nothing's ever set in stone. But it could be a weekend special. You know, it could be a breaking news on a Saturday or Sunday. Erik ten Hag stays or Erik ten Hag goes. So everyone keep your eye out on that. I'm going to keep my notifications switched on over the weekend. And yeah, we could be doing a breaking news show for you. I'm hoping it's going to be Erik ten Hag stays. Like Ben Jacobs said yesterday, you know, United aren't going to do a specific announcement on, you know, if he stays or not. Well, they could do, but it's highly doubtful. They might say a few words on it. But what will happen is as soon as the decision's been made, the media will be straight on it because, you know, it's going to be massive, massive news and you'll hear it from the Romanos, the Ornsteins, the Ben Jacobs and everything like that. So let's see what happens with that. Gono says, Todibo, Tosin, Maguire, Cambualo, and then we are home and dry for only 40 million. Cambualo, I think, could do with a loan, maybe. I mean, if you look at how good a loan spell did for Saliba, Cambualo could go down that same path. Maguire will probably end up staying. I think Tosin's a good squad player to have. Todibo is another good one. I'd still like to get another quality centre-back in there. That might be me being greedy, but I really would. I would want to get another quality centre-back in there, depending on who it is. But, you know, Tosin might have to be the compromise on that. Chalobah, I heard it being mentioned on Sky Sports before I came on the show. He's someone United are interested in, £25 million. That could be something that United go for. Keep your eye on that. I mean, it's not something that's been massively spoken about, but if United are looking for cut-price deals, Premier League proven, English, Chalobah is someone that Manchester United could be looking at, so that's something to watch as well. Also in this article from James Ducker, it also said, United launched a season review this week and want to ensure they carry out a full assessment and work carefully through all the considerations before making judgment on Ten Hag. There is recognition that if United have a big decision to make either way and they want to be sure that they have left no stone unturned. Basically there, what is being reported is the hierarchy are going through every single thing, coming to a decision based on all of the evidence, and they don't want to leave any stone unturned. They want to make sure they've gathered all the evidence. But for me personally, again, I might be way off the mark here. I might be way off the mark. But surely this review should have been being done ever since they walked through the door and should have been completed before the end of the season. Because you're talking about an end of season review. You were going to sack the manager after the FA Cup final. So your FA Cup review, your season review would have been done. So United have launched an end of season review after the FA Cup final, a thorough one where no stone's going to be left unturned. Surely you were doing this from when you came in as owners, and surely the end of season review was finished because you were going to sack the manager. Like, you were going to sack the manager. So now that Ten Hag's won the cup and there's so much momentum behind him, and every poll you do, I don't care what outlet it is, every Man United fan base outlet that is doing a poll, it's like 70-80% keep Erik ten Hag, if not even more. So you know there's going to be backlash from the fans if you get rid of him. Now all of a sudden there's a thorough end of season review. My honest opinion, this might be me being a cynic, is I think it's just the review is just buying time to sack him. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Erik ten Hag stays, but that's the news from James Ducker. We'll see when the news comes out. Hopefully it's a weekend special and we can get the news as soon as possible. Would love to get some breaking news today. I mean, stay on alert. Ben Jacobs said it could be any time now. James Ducker doesn't think it'll be before the end of this week. We'll see what happens. But what I do know is news needs to come soon. On the poll, would you want to sign a Rojo? Yes, it says 58% of you, 59% of you now, and no says 42%. So a popular name in the fan base. Also, a little bit of news from Sky Sports, just a little bit to bring in. Apparently, Martial's next club after Manchester United could be either Lyon, Marseille, or a Turkish team. Apparently, they are all also interested in Martial. So we won't be going to the Premier League, it looks like. I honestly think he probably will go back to France and play football there. It may be either Lyon or Marseille. See what happens with Anthony Martial. Obviously, he's not a United player anymore, so it's not really that that important, but it's just a little bit interesting to kind of follow where a United player who's been at the club for 9 years will go on his next journey. But look, everyone, a couple more chats. Daniel Farr says it's either a way to give them time to break the news or a PR ploy. Honestly, they knew what they were doing. I don't think that him being fired was a sure thing, only a consideration. I think it was a sure thing. I think he was gone. Based on who I spoke to privately, I think Erik ten Hag was gone after the FA Cup. I'm pretty sure he was gone. And they couldn't sack him after that result. That's why I don't get the thorough review now, because the thorough review, in my opinion, had already been done. But you know what? I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it is a thorough review, and I hope Erik ten Hag comes out of it of his flying colours, and I hope Ineos come to some sense and keep Erik ten Hag. Listen to the people that have worked in football. Claude Blanc pushing for Erik ten Hag's case. Listen to him. Last little bit of the show. Have we got any more super chats that I forgot to read out? Ghosty McTosey says, Shaw has got to go. We can't rely on him anymore. That came out of left field. That's the last super chat of the day. But get in the comments down below. Do you think ten Hag will stay, or do you think he'll go? Someone in the chat has just said David Ornstein. Is David Ornstein put anything out? No, there's nothing on his Twitter. Somebody is having me on. But look, everyone, thank you for the show. Get in your comments down below. What centre-backs should Manchester United sign? It's a big debate, this centre-back one. We keep hearing Branthwaite, Todibo, Arojo. We heard about Max Kilman. We've heard about Mark Gahey. We heard about Tar on the show yesterday with Ben Jacobs. There's a lot of centre-backs on Man United's list. Which ones? What would be your top three? You know what? This is a challenge for you guys. Everyone in the chat, get in the comments. I'm going to read through. I want to see what you guys are saying. Get in the top three centre-back choices that you want to go for this summer. Tossing's another one to bring in there as well. A free transfer, Chalobah. Get in your top three. Not only just based on talent, but based on feasibility and also, you know, financially thinking about spending money elsewhere as well. Get in your top three centre-backs you'd go for. Get in all your comments. Would you want Jadon Sancho to turn it around? Do you think we should sell him still? What price do you think you'd get for him? If Erik ten Hag did leave, would you bring him back, or would you still want him to go? Get your comments in down below. Have a lovely Friday, everyone. Goldbridge is back from his holiday for the 2 p.m. show, so get excited for that. Before you leave me today, please hit a like on the video. Thank you. I just want to give a shout out this week. I know Mark's been away a lot on holiday, and you know he's been having some well-deserved breaks. He's obviously still been doing the shows because he can't stay away from you. But I really appreciate all the viewers being supportive and getting in the community and making these shows great still, and having some great shows over the course of this week in what is a turbulent time for Manchester United. So I appreciate you all in the community. Please hit a like on the video on your way out. I'll see you on the next one.